This particular group has a chance to be very, very special and historic.
Still, somehow that hate and that passion for this rivalry still
The
exists.
same schedule that they depicted us to be the last in the freaking conference is the same schedule that we're 8-4 on.
Not quite, my friend. Give me the Mountaineers, baby.
Neil has done exactly what he said he was going to do when the university entrusted him in this position. Trust the climb, give me a few years, let me get my culture in here, let me build the way I'm going to build.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Walkthrough Game Day Show presented by Sports Illustrated, and I am Schuyler Callihan. That is legendary West Virginia running back Eugene Napoleon. He had a week off from us for last week with no game. We took advantage of that. No game, no show. But we will be back from here on out until the next bye week, which I believe is after the Arizona game, if mine serves me correctly. But got a lot to dive into today. It's a full episode. We'll go about an hour or so. As always, we're going to talk about the Kansas game. Even though we had Gene on between the ears last week, we'll kind of rehash that a little bit, kind of the first four games to this point. And then we'll talk about some interesting heated topic that's going around college football right now that Gene's fired up about. And Trivia of the Week, players to watch, game preview, pick'ems, as we always do. So, Gene, let's go ahead and dive right into this thing. West Virginia, Kansas, 32-28. It was a thrilling game. We talked about it in the post game, talked about it between the years last week. But there were some things that I think you can kind of take from that game as positives. Number one, Garrett Green started to look like himself. And what I mean by that, it's not necessarily that he wasn't good in the first 3 weeks, but he wasn't great either. And I think even though the interceptions have been somewhat of an issue, not all of them have been on him. Some have been on the receivers.
Right.
Some have been the one in the Kansas game. Actually, both of them in the Kansas game were really not even his fault. The first one should have been defensive pass interference, wasn't called. The second one was he was hit as he was throwing. That's on the right guard. So there's reasons to be, I guess, excited about Garrett Green and the progress that he made. He threw for 295 yards. But more importantly, Gene, he started to call his own number, which is something we didn't really see a whole lot of in the first 3 weeks. And I kind of got that impression that he was pressing too much to sharpen his accuracy as a passer and prove people wrong in the passing game. That's all we heard all offseason was his completion percentage was low to mid 50s.
Right.
And I think when you hear that too much, you start to become something you're not. And it was nice to see that even when down 11 points late in the fourth quarter, he didn't care. I'm going to run the football. I'm going to be me. And that's what happened to help get West Virginia the win. And it was good to see Garrett Green return to his old self.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a huge confidence builder, especially when you can play a certain style of ball that really fits your abilities a lot better than coming outside of the shell that you are as a passer/runner. Which I'm gonna be honest with you, I think he needed this type of a breakout game per se going into the teeth of the rest of the schedule. He needed that again from a confidence builder standpoint. Garrett Green knows exactly who Garrett Green is. Let me be clear about that. When you are an alpha dog, you know who you are. You know what you are. And it just comes down to it's just a certain amount of time before you put it all together. And then once it starts to click, now you can go out there and you can play the rest of the season this way. And this is a step in the right direction for him. And it is a tremendous confidence builder at the right time. He definitely needed a game like this.
What I will say is, I mean, obviously, the better quarterback play you get, obviously, you're going to have a better chance to win games and be successful. But there are some teams in the country that they can kind of get by with marginal quarterback play. This West Virginia team is not one of them. Obviously, they have massive areas of weakness on this team, especially on the defensive side. And I wholeheartedly believe that like this team is going to go as far as Garrett Green takes them. And if he gets back to being the quarterback that he was a year ago, where he was confident, I don't want to say that. Take that back. He doesn't lack confidence. I think it's again trying to prove people that he is a good passer, and sometimes when you do that, you focus more on passing the ball instead of calling your own number. And if he goes back to what he did last year and in the end of the Kansas game and takes that moving forward, he's going to have a lot of success. That's who he needs to be. He starts to be something he's not. This team's going to be something it's not. So that for me is a huge sign. I get he was 15 of 30, threw for 295 yards, but that's what he was last year. Like he completed around 50% of his passes. He took shots deep down the field, completed a bunch of them, ran for a bunch of yardage. And some guys you can kind of get by with living in the low 50% completion percentage range if you're completing deep passes and you're running the football. So that's the formula. Like, I mean, yeah, you'd love to have it at 62%. Is it reality? I don't know. The other point, or I guess the other two things are more concerns than anything. Rushing defense, they allowed 247 yards to the Kansas Jayhawks. And I know that doesn't make you very happy.
No.
Maybe for the running back family, but Kansas is a good running team. We all know that. That's their bread and butter. That's kind of what they're going to live and die by. So you kind of pick your poison because
Right.
too, like Jordan Leslie going into this game, he kind of knew like, hey, we can't afford to kind of have our secondary kind of lay them out to dry and put those guys on an island, even against Kansas, who doesn't throw the ball particularly well or very much. But when you do that, you lighten the box against a good running team, and that's what's going to happen. They're going to gain yardage. So they had to pick their poison. Unfortunately, it's going to be kind of a similar situation again this week against Oklahoma State, which we'll get to. But there have been parts this season where the run defense has not been great, but there's been spots where it's been pretty darn good too. So, thoughts on the run defense through the first month of the season? What do you see that you like, what you don't like?
I think we're going to have a problem with balance moving forward. It's going to be a balancing act to try to figure out if our secondary is not playing well, they're not playing consistent. You have a problem. The dual problem within that problem is if the opposing team is running the ball well, now that play action becomes a bigger problem if your secondary also is not playing well.
Yeah.
So you could potentially you're talking about uh, the difference between a few drizzles to now a complete downpour. if we don't if we don't get these things fixed. So my takeaway in the first 4 weeks of the season, we have to shore up the back end. They just simply have to play better. They have to play better in the passing game, going towards like when the ball is in the air. We're not tracking the ball well. That's number one in the secondary. We're not tackling well as a unit, not just in the secondary, but that becomes problematic. And dude, we really have to do better in getting our opposing teams off the field in third down situations.
Yeah.
That's the killer. These long freaking drives, these 10 play, 13 play, 12 play, 11 play drives. And in between that, we give up a big play. We really have to be more consistent across the board in both the run game and in the pass game. It's different if you have to fix one, but when you have to fix both and you're leading into the teeth of your schedule, that becomes problematic. And I'm really concerned about that. I
Yeah.
really am, because you got to be able to be somewhat balanced if you're going to beat these teams that we're pretty much about to face within the next few weeks, starting at Oklahoma State.
Absolutely. And my third and final point was something about Jaheim, but I'll save that for later in the show. Instead, I kind of want to go off to what you're saying here. The Big 12 is wide freaking open, man. Like it is ridiculous. Last week when we had the opportunity to watch games around the league and really the country, My takeaway was just like you're in this thing. Like as crazy as it sounds, Utah, who goes on the road, beats Oklahoma State, then they fall. BYU's a crazy 5-0. No one saw that coming. Kansas State, they lose to BYU 38-9 on the road. I know that was kind of a weird game. It kind of a lot of points happened in a short amount of time, but then they bounce back and just dominate Oklahoma State last week. Arizona beats Utah. Like, I mean, there's just so many weird outcomes. We knew this going into the season that the Big 12 was going to have a lot of parity and it's going to be very tight from top to bottom. But my feeling is like, look, you may be 2-2, but you're really 1-0. You can't even think about the preseason anymore. Well, see, I'm already talking as if everyone knows what I'm talking about. The preseason to me is non-conference play, especially in
Absolutely.
this new era where you can just get into the college football playoff by winning your league. Who cares about the non-conference? I mean, yeah, it'd be great to go 3-0. You'd help your at-large chances for sure, but
Sure.
I mean, this is what matters. You're 1-0 in league play. You have a big game on the road this week. Even if you lose, and I know we don't like to talk about even ifs on this show, but even if you lose, you're still in an okay spot because you're 1-1 in the games that matter, and you come back home for a 2-game series at home. So you're okay right now. It's not time to panic. It's not time to flip out. I know I got a lot of people in the mailbag the last couple of weeks on our site asking about when Neil Brown would be fired, if they're going to fire him if they lose to Oklahoma State. They're going to let this thing play out. As I've said from the very beginning, they're not going to make a decision in season. You have talked about it at length on here. That's not something they do.
Right. Here's what's funny. We mentioned, or you mentioned several teams, but you know who you didn't mention? And he's going to be pretty upset when he sees this segment. Prime time.
Yeah. Yes.
Prime time, right?
Yes.
Nobody's talking about Colorado.
That's true.
Now, listen. That's a problem. And that's going to be a problem because they're going to get better and better. So it'll be interesting to see when we're in week 7, week 8, week 9 to see where they are, where the tally of wins to losses compare when it comes to prime time in them
Yeah.
Colorado Buffaloes. It'll be interesting. But
I
I'm more
mean,
interesting to see interested in where we're going to be sitting in week 7, week 8, week 9. Because that will then go into the fans being in your bag, asking the same very question you just posed
yeah.
about Coach Brown. Like, what do we look? What are we doing? Where are we? Right? Okay. So I don't want to get into hyperbole and say that a win at Oklahoma State has to be, but I'm gonna be honest with you, Scholar. Bruh, yeah.
You got to win this game.
We have to come back from Stillwater with a victory, dude, because it sets this is a tone setting game, to be honest with you. It sets the tone of the rest of what we're doing within our conference. Oklahoma State is well respected. They're respected as a program. They're respected to be a well-coached football team. They're respected to be explosive at home. So how great would it be to go into Stillwater and come back to Morgantown with a win?
2-0.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be massive, and I think a lot of people would feel much different about the kind of the temperature of the situation. If you're 2-0 coming back home for 2 games at home, not saying you're going to win both at home, but you got to like your chances. So we'll dive more into that game later coming up after the break, but we're going to go and pivot here to something national as promised, and something that Gene I knew was going to light up when he saw this because this is kind of right up his alley. He's an old school guy. He's got some new school thoughts and some new school swag to him, of course, but he's got some old schoolness to him, and I got to agree with him in a lot of things in regards to this. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's obviously the UNLV situation with Matthew Sluka. the quarterback out there that left his team after a 3-0 or 4-0 start, whatever it was, because of kind of a disagreement, I guess, of sorts between what his compensation should have been and his NIL deal. He said that's kind of the situation we got here. Sluka was saying that he was guaranteed $100,000. UNLV's coming back and saying, I think I could be wrong on this, so please go back and double check. But I think it was UNLV said that they were going to give him $3,000 a month throughout the season. I think that's what it was. Obviously, regardless, massive difference, right, between where one side thinks it what it was and the other. But I feel for him and for the team because things were rolling, and they still are. They actually just took care of business and had a blowout win this past weekend without him. Campbell, transfer quarterback, came in and did really, really well. But
Yep.
your quarterback that's completing 44% of your passes. I'm no mathematician. I'm no quarterback expert, but that's not good. So I don't know what his thinking is. And you're the starting quarterback of this team who is undefeated and is somebody that's probably going to be in the mix to be that G5 team to make the college football playoff. I mean, where are you going? Like, and I understand that the difference in money that, like, I get it. If what they told him or promised him is not what they're giving him, that's an issue. I don't know much of the situation. No one really does. They're still trying to figure out the details of it, but you've got to figure that out in the offseason. He is, I believe, a senior, so I understand why he wants to step away, and I get it, but dude, you have a chance to get to the college football playoff. When you're completing 44% of your passes, when you do hop into the portal, where are you going? You're at UNLV right now.
Yeah.
You're not making the step up. And
Right.
when all of this kind of comes around and you have this narrative that gets created about your name, I'm just saying it would turn me off if I'm a coach from pursuing him. I don't like it. I think you got to stick it out. You got to play it through. And this is more about your brothers than a paycheck. I mean,
Yeah.
this is about memories, something that you can say, "Hey, I led the team to the college football playoff." I don't like it. Gene, thoughts on that before we kind of dive into more of the whole thing as a global problem?
To your point, Scotland, very good point. So here's the thing: you don't have to be a mathematician to understand 44% completion rate from a quarterback that's a starting quarterback on an undefeated team is not good. So let's start there.
More
Let's
balls
build
are
our
hitting the
house,
ground
the
than not.
foundation. Yeah, let's build the foundation for our house right then and there. 44% is not good. Okay, that's one. Two, purely football. It's not personal. It's purely football, right? If I'm at another school and I'm watching this situation play out and I'm saying to myself, okay, staff, here we go. Take a look at this young man. All right, 44% and not good. Okay. But he can do everything with his legs. Right, and not good. He's doing everything with his legs. His team is undefeated. He's a leader because you see how they play when he's on the field. He's a leader. You can see that. But now let's talk about the business aspect of it. If he's there and that team is undefeated and he's your starting quarterback, regardless of 44% completion rate, they're winning, which means he's part of the winning recipe. He's stirring that pot.
Especially with his legs. He was running the ball really well, even against Kansas.
Right. But here's the problem. The problem is, can we count on him?
Mhm.
See, can we count on him? Can I bring that energy into my locker room and expect him to be a leader in my locker room when he left a team when they were undefeated and he was the leader there? And you left because of money. Let's be clear. 10 years ago, if somebody would told me, oh my God, they're talking about the difference between, well, they were supposed to pay him $100,000. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about professional sports? Are we talking about collegiate sports?
Yeah.
I know the landscape changed. I get all of that. My point is, this decision can't just be about money. Because if you are as good as you think you are, you will play well enough to get the bag later on. If you are that guy. If you
Yeah.
worried about the difference between 3,000, 4,000, or whatever it is, now if we're talking about that on top of his scholarship check, then you're talking about he might be pulling in somewhere close to $8,000, $9,000 a month. Because remember, we're talking scholarship check, off-campus housing. Your scholarship check is paying for that. So let's just say, if I don't know what UNLV situation is financially, but let's just say for the sake of argument, they're throwing him another $4,000 or $5,000 in your scholarship check, plus the three that that's $8,000 a month, dude.
Yeah. I mean, what else more do you want?
All right, that's $8,000 a month. Now
At
you might be looking at,
UNLV, this isn't Georgia.
thank
It's
you.
got an endless
So
supply of money.
thank you. He's looking at the situation like, well, they lied to me. Okay, I get that. Well, you may have lied to them because you may have told them that you're going to be completing 68% of your passes, not 44%. So listen, this is it's a two-way street, my guy. It's a two-way street. If he went in there as a young man and said, listen, before I make this decision to bounce, what's going on with my money? What's going on with my bag? Like, that's not to say that he did. That's the mature way to handle the situation. I don't know enough about the details to speak, but just on surface from what I'm seeing, I don't like it.
Yep.
You got an obligation to your teammates. Then you talk about your coaches, not talking about the money. You have an obligation to an undefeated team with that locker room looking at you as the leader, and then you bailed on them based on money. I don't know.
That's
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not happy with that. But again, I'm not that young man. I'm not in his situation.
I mean, it's just a tough situation for really everyone involved, especially in college football or college sports, because we're getting to this point where it's almost expected that you're going to get money, and I don't think that should be the case. Like, I think I mean, I understand the opportunities should be there, but some of these guys got to realize, like, hey, if I'm going to go to a group of five school, or even if I go to a power four school, and I'm probably going to be the fourth string quarterback walking in to West Virginia next year or in 2 years, I'm probably not going to get an absurd amount of money because, number one, I'm the fourth string quarterback, or I'm at a group of five school. They're not going to have an endless supply of money, like I said. And unless you're Arch Manning, there's not very many $1 million backup quarterbacks out there. So I think that plus the portal, it's a mess right now. And there's really no perfect solution to it right now. Someone's got to fix it. Mike Gundy actually talked about it in his press conference earlier this week about how there needs to be a commissioner for college football. And yes, 1000%. Someone's got to have the oversight of everything that's going on. We need to have rules. And I think at some point, college football needs to be kind of almost become its own thing. Separate it from the NCAA or separate it from college basketball, because you can't operate it as equal. College football and college basketball are the two biggest revenue drivers in college
Sure.
sports, but they're two completely different things. You can't have the same rules in college football with NIL and portal stuff as you do in the other. Like, it's just not possible. And for football specifically, I like the 4 game redshirt thing because it gives players an opportunity to show that, hey, I'm ready to play, or it gets them an opportunity at the end of the season if guys are hurt or whatever to get some experience heading into next year. But it's also a dangerous thing too, because if they play the first 4 games and maybe the season's not going well, the team's 1-3, or you're not getting nearly enough playing time, you're like, I might go hit the portal because I'm at 4 games. I don't want to play and burn my year of eligibility. That's an issue. There has to be some sort of way that we can corral this before it gets ridiculous and guys are leaving championship contending teams in the middle of a season. And I think that's part of why they went to a 12-team playoff, is to eliminate some of the guys sitting out in the bowl games. You're still going to have that at some places, at some bowl games, but it's a mess right now, Gene. I don't know that we're anywhere near a solution.
No. Well, first off, let me be clear. In the scheme of big business, with the bottom line number being what that is for these universities and the Power Four conferences that are ran by networks, let's be clear. At the end of the day, whenever you have a big pot of money there's not going to be a solution because nobody wants a solution. Let's be clear. People can talk all they want.
Yeah.
They can talk all they want. The optics are what it is. That's thrown out there. But what is the SEC TV contract worth? It's a few
Oh,
$1 billion.
Big Ten
Billion with a
too is
B.
up there.
Okay, so you're not going to listen, dude. You're not going to tamper with that. What you will do is fix the timeline in which these players can transfer. That can hit the transfer portal. You're going to do that. You're going to give everybody these Power Four programs $20+ million to then fix their threshold of monies. It still doesn't help the Power Five schools. It still don't help them. They're not talking about giving them $20 million per university. No, they said the Power Four conference.
Or the group of five. Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, the group of five. Group of five. So you're still going to have that problem. That's because that's a big brother, little brother problem. You're still going to have that. So you're still going to have certain kids who say, I want to jump from the group of five and get up to my big brother league because I know that's where the money's at.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm saying they need to fix the window, the transfer window, the portal window. And I think that'll slow down at least the influx of players jumping from a group of five to a Power Four level. That'll be one solution. The other solution is I think they're getting there with the $20 million cap per Power, Power Four conference schools. You're going to get $20 million. Now, what you do with that money is your business. Don't come sniffing around the table for more.
Yeah. I think it has to be regulated almost similar to the NFL where teams have a salary cap. That's the only way you're going to have equality in college football. I mean, or really just college sports. You have to have a salary cap of sorts, and it has to be documented or reported whenever a player does get paid what they are getting paid. There's no,
Absolutely.
hey, I'm going to pay, I don't even know, Patrick Mahomes $500 million, but I'm only going to say, hey, we only gave him 30 million. No, the Kansas City Chiefs have to say they gave him $500 million.
You know how that 5-star, 4-star, 3-star rating goes.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's listening, ads, head coaches, that's the same type of rating you need to have with your payout scale when you get that $20 million to start going over your. And to what you just said, which is a great point. That way, if you tag my starting quarterback, okay, I gave him $800,000. That goes in a system. Starting quarterback from University A got $800,000. Okay, that means when he transfers, that information goes right with him. It's like your transcript.
Yeah,
It's like your academic transcript. Okay, my buddy, you got $800,000 over here. You hit the transfer portal. Okay, you're going over here. We don't have 800 to give you.
exactly.
Way our money is slotted per position per starting quarterback. We got 450. That's what we
Yeah.
got. Because if we go over that, we're going to screw up our budget. That's what we got. Now, I guarantee you, Schuyler, when they start doing that, like you said, and make it more of a fiscal responsibility, not only on the current university, but moving forward, if that kid leaves, because now it's too much. Well, I got $1 million over here. Stop lying.
Exactly.
Because now you're trying to build your cachet financially to make another school when you transfer give you more money. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think if you do that, now guess what? You can look and see, all right, there's a paper trail that's going to follow you, whether you stay or leave with what you made. And you can't beat somebody over the head to give you $100,000 more when you wasn't making that over here. Stop it, buddy. What are we doing?
What we doing? I
I'm
love it.
just
I mean,
saying, stop.
that plus, I think, and I've said it a million times, I think the Power Four needs to have their own playoff. The Group of Five has to have their own. And even with the expanded playoff, it's great because, the Group of Five does get a team in. But, I mean, what are their chances to really make a run there? I mean, they have to win multiple games to even get to the championship game. It's very unrealistic. And in my opinion, I think you'd be better served to have them go have their own playoff because you're actually giving them a chance to accomplish something and beat teams at their own level. I mean, you're just giving away a win to the number 5 team more years than not. Maybe every now and then you'll have an upset, but I've said that for years. I'm not going to back off it. But anyways, we need to move along here. We could probably have a whole show on that, so maybe we will bring that up at some point in the off season again when noise starts to chatter up. But time for our trivia question. Before we head to break, we'll ask the question. We'll give you a minute to think on it, and we'll come back with the answer. And this week's question is: the last time Oklahoma State lost 3 straight games was 2014. Gene, that's a decade ago, which is already hard to believe. WVU was part of that 3-game losing streak. The Mountaineers won that game 34-10. The question being, in that 34-10 win over the Cowboys, who was the Mountaineers' leading receiver? We're kicking up the difficulty each week here. A couple of weeks ago, we gave you a Eugene question, which he already knew. Last week was a little bit easier. This one's getting a little harder. The options are A, Kevin White, B, Da'Keil Shorts, or C, Mario Alford. So have a think about that for a couple of seconds. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we'll reveal the answer and dive into our West Virginia-Oklahoma State game preview.
There are better-known tractors in the world than Coyote. Ones with bigger names, longer histories, more popular hats, cute toy lines. But there's not a single tractor ever been built that's better equipped to do the dirty work. So we'll just focus on what really matters. Coyote, we dig dirt.
Now at Johnston Equipment, get 0% financing for 72 months, plus a free loader on select Coyote models in stock. Visit us on Route 33 between Weston and Buchanan.
Welcome back to the Walkthrough Game Day Show presented by West Virginia on SI. That is Eugene Napoleon. I'm Schuyler Callihan, and it is time to go and reveal our trivia question answer. And we'll get Gene's thoughts before we reveal that. But Gene, before the break, we asked the last time Oklahoma State lost 3 games is 2014. WVU was obviously part of that stretch of losing 3 straight. Who was the Mountaineers' leading receiver in their 34-10 win? Kevin White, Da'Keil Shorts, or Mario Alford? Your answer, sir.
Kevin White, my dude.
Now, if you were to ask me this question and I had not had any Google history of looking it up, I would have probably said the same thing. But no, you are wrong. It is actually C. Mario Alford had a...
Stop it.
Yes.
Stop it. Stop it.
Mario Alford had 7 catches for 136 yards and a touchdown. The next closest receiver wasn't even Kevin White. It was Jordan Thompson with 46 yards. Squirt. A squirt reference in 2024. But, yeah, Mario had a 79-yard catch in that game, by the way. Massive win. Clint Trickett and company, a lot of fun. That team was actually kind of exciting at the beginning of the year. Had a little bit of a collapse, but a lot of fun. So Mario Alford is the answer there. So let's go ahead and transition into our players to watch for this week's game between West Virginia and Oklahoma State. For the Cowboys, it is, of course, without a doubt, the man, Ollie Gordon, the running back who just absolutely lit up West Virginia on the ground last year. He's had a little bit struggles of getting going this year, just 3.4 yards per carry so far, but at some point he's going to break through. On the defensive side, Trey Rucker. Now, if you see him on the screen, this dude does not look like a safety. He looks like a massive NFL linebacker, but he is one of the better safeties. He is a little bit of a hybrid, I will say, but he's 4th in the NCAA with 63 tackles, has 2 interceptions. And then on the other side for the Mountaineers, I have Jaheim White, who is what I was going to bring up earlier. Only 48.5 yards per game this season. That needs to go up significantly. And then defensively, it is Josiah Trotter, who I think is going to have to play a massive part in West Virginia's run defense to slow down Ollie Gordon. So, Gene, start here first with Ollie Gordon. Your thoughts on him? Obviously, very talented running back. You know running backs like nobody else. What did you think of him last year when you saw him when he ran for, 282 yards? I had to do a double take on that. I forgot how bad it was. 282 yards. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 touchdowns against West Virginia last year. Thoughts on him and the dangerous threats that he poses?
Dude, he's different. He's a difference maker. And he's a kid that has the ability to go the distance no matter where they are on the football field. And that's what's so scary about his big play potential. And he's even a threat out the backfield in the passing game. So that's the kind of back that you have, you're going to sit up as a D coordinator and have nightmares about trying to defend this kid.
Yeah.
It's backs that get strong as the game goes, along, which is another interesting fact about his ability. That's why I think he's going to be a good one, at the next level. The game goes on, he gets stronger. I'm concerned because we're not particularly tackling that well. Number one. Okay. Number two, when he gets into the second level, now there's a problem because you got to make a business decision. Okay, you got to make a business decision with this guy. So we have to listen, all hats have to be on deck, meaning all helmets got to be on deck when you play against a kid like this. We got to stop the run, man, because if we don't stop the run, like I said earlier, it opens up, that play action becomes a problem, and you don't want to get into a shootout with Oklahoma State. You just don't. Not at Oklahoma State. You just don't. They have the ability to pour on the points, and I don't think that's a good place. We don't want to be in that position.
Yeah, he's dynamic. I mean, again, he's struggled to get going this year. I actually had it wrong. His average is 3.8 yards per carry, but still a far cry from what he was a year ago. He was he's the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year, Doak Walker Award winner. I mean, he is the best running back in the country. A lot of people thought he was the runaway favorite to be the Heisman entering the season. To this point, he's got a lot of work to do to catch up to that. If you haven't watched or heard of him, Gene, I know that we're getting a little off topic here, but speaking of running backs and Heisman, Ashton Genty at Boise State, don't know if you've heard of him. 800 some yards, 13 touchdowns, and we're like 5 games into the season. I know he's at Boise State, but hand that man the trophy.
As we say it in Jersey, he's snapping.
Yeah.
He's snapping. I mean, man.
He's phenomenal.
He's putting up my senior year high school numbers going into game 4 with 800-something, 12 touchdowns in the first 4. Yeah, he's putting up those type of numbers in college.
It's
unbelievable.
Insane. And then I won't go too much into Trey Rucker, but offensively for West Virginia, the player to watch, obviously, Jaheim White. Feels like they need to get him going a little bit. He's just not been as explosive. It felt like every time he touched the ball last year, you're like, he's going to do something with it. Like kind of like that Tavon effect in some ways, not comparing him, of course, but just the same excitement factor whenever he touched the ball last year. Hasn't really been the same this year. Part of that could be a sophomore slump. Part of that could be teams understanding him more, understanding how to play him better. But Josiah Trotter, too, defensively, like I said, he's going to play a massive part in this game because you need your front seven to really tighten up. And I could have picked anybody in the back end because they're going to take shots down the field on this secondary. They will throw the ball. They threw it 50-some times last week against Kansas State. But Josiah Trotter and that defensive front seven, they've got to step up and contain Ollie Gordon. They're not going to stop him. But if you can keep him to his season average of 3.8 yards per carry, I think you got to like your chances.
No doubt. Listen, I'm going to say this. This is a game where your defense should be licking their chops for the opportunity to play in this type of game. This is what I call a get-right game for my defense.
Careful now. Oklahoma State's probably saying the same thing, but you're right.
No, I'm sure they are. Look, if their DC is worth a grain of salt, he's going to say the same thing. This is a get-right game, man. From a defensive line and linebacker perspective, you want this game against a quality running back, one of the best backs, if not the best back in the country. You know, can we put a hat on this guy? Can we get him to the ground? You know, in the back end, they threw the ball 50 some odd times last week. If I'm a corner or safety, I'm like, come on, bring it. Please throw it that many times. Please, I got a chance for some picks. I'm going to be a ball hawk this week. This is a get-right game in every facet of the word when you're going into a game like this. This is why you came to West Virginia, to play in these type of games.
Yeah.
We have to show up, Schuyler. That's the bottom line. We have to show up defensively to give our offense an opportunity to do what they need to do to win this football game. That's how
Yeah.
I look at it.
So diving into our preview here, we'll go Oklahoma State offense versus West Virginia's defense first. Like we said, they like to throw the football. Alan Bowman's 60% completion on the year, 11-6 touchdown interception ratio. He's kind of been up and down for them. Not as good as he was a year ago. Even though last year he had interception issues there too. I think he threw like
Yeah.
13 or 14 interceptions. He's been around for I think his freshman year was your senior year, Gene. If memory serves me correct, he's been around a while. You,
Been
you
around a
may have
minute.
you may have played him. He may have actually started against West Virginia in that game years ago, but he's been around for a while.
The senior
Started off.
class in every university in the country. Yes.
Yeah, I mean he started at Texas Tech, and I'm not kidding when I say this. He did start as a it was either true freshman, redshirt freshman against Will Greer in Will Greer's final season with West Virginia 2018. That's how long this dude's been around.
Yeah.
That's when he was at Texas Tech. Of course, he moved on to Michigan, didn't play there, gets another opportunity here at Oklahoma State. He's getting the ball out fast. That's a very, very concerning thing when you got this secondary in the way that they have played in the first month of the year. A very interesting matchup here, Gene, is the offensive line of Oklahoma State, very senior laden, four guys that are in their senior year that have only given up one sack all season. One sack. West Virginia going into last week, obviously they didn't play, but heading into week 4, West Virginia was 5th in the country in quarterback pressures. TJ Jackson, who has played limited snaps for 2 of those 4 games, led the country in individual pressures with 20. So that just goes to show you how much of a mark he's making. But that little battle up front between West Virginia's front 7 and their offensive line is going to be massive. Obviously, Alan Bowman has not been sacked much. He gets the ball out quick. How do you, if you're Jordan Leslie, Gene, combat that? How do you find success in getting to him and also making it tough on him in the passing game when he's getting it out so fast?
Stunts up front. My D-line stunts up front, because you're going to have to do something to make it more difficult. You know, again, you have a veteran-laden line at Oklahoma State, and usually their linemen are pretty doggone good anyway. You know, they have a really good system there as far as developing their offensive line, and I think this is why their running game is so good. But if I'm going against this offensive front, you know, their line being as good as they are, I'm going to have to get them off their rhythm. I'm going to have to do something to change the trajectory of the throwing points, you know, for their QB, get in the passing lanes. But more importantly, like I said, you're going to have to, some way, shape, or form, give them a look that they haven't seen yet. Bring pressures from different angles that they haven't seen.
And you can do that when it's a bye week and you have a whole week to prepare. So.
Absolutely. So here's where it comes down to, dare I say, coaching.
I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming at some point.
That's what it is, because you had a bye week to prepare for this, to scheme against this really good offensive line, which if I'm Jordan Leslie, I'd be looking forward to it, because this is what it's all about.
Good on
so
good.
Listen, I'm going to scheme to get pressure, put packages in behind that pressure, to do something in the back end, to throw them off, to make sure that if I don't get to him, I'm going to at least have him thinking pressure's coming from here, which really come from here. Or pressure's coming from here, which really coming up the middle. As a DC, that's what I'm paid for, correct?
Yeah. You got to impact the game. You can still impact the passer. You can impact the passer even if you're not getting home to him, if you're not getting the sack or whatever. You can still affect the pocket. You can affect his footwork, the way he finishes a throw. There's a lot of different ways. Get your hands up in windows. Like there's way more ways than just bring him to the ground.
Pressure burst pipes, last I heard.
Yeah. And for him, I mean, obviously they like to get the ball out fast, but like I said too, they like to take their shots downfield. They've got some explosive players in the passing game. Stribling, Brennan Presley, he's been around for a while. He's more their underneath target. Rashad Owens. Um, they've got three guys, Gene. I mean, that are averaging over 15 yards a catch. I mean, that's who they are. They're either going to dice you up underneath, or they're going to send a shot
Stop.
down deep. And this secondary is going to be tested. And TJ Crandall, he's questionable for this game. He started the Kansas game, thought he played well. Garnett Hollis, who lost his starting job, I think he kind of bounced back and played well. Maybe him being yanked out of the starting lineup helped him. Maybe gave him a little bit more motivation. But it all comes down to stopping Ollie Gordon or containing Ollie Gordon. If he goes over 120 yards, if this is the week, Gene, that he figures it out and he's back to his old self, I'm sorry, but we're going to have a long conversation on Saturday night because it's not going to be a fun game to talk about.
No. Well, hopefully, listen, hopefully he doesn't figure it out against us.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully this is not the game that he gets back on track for 150 plus outing, because that's a problem.
Right.
Like I said, that kid is easy in that when he gets going big. So it won't be 120. It'll be like that 150, 175 type. He's that type of back. And no, I don't need him to get on track against our defense. No, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. And really, the one stat that really pops out to me for them on offense that's kind of glaring, it's an issue that maybe you can take advantage of, is third down. They have not been very good on third down. You got to get them to play behind the sticks. And I know for every game you can say that, but certain teams you certainly want to. You don't want to get 3rd and 2 and 3rd and 3 when they have Ollie Gordon in their backfield and they can just hand it off to him. He falls forward and boom, they're moving the sticks. But
Right.
they are 36.8% on third down right now. That's 11th in the Big 12 out of 16 teams, of course. And they have the second most attempts on third down. So it's not like that's a skewed number where, they're 36%, but they have the fewest amount of attempts. No, they've got a ton of cracks at it, and they're not converting. So that's one area that West Virginia defensively has kind of been hot and cold in so far. So if they can get off the field on third down, that'll be a huge part in this game as well. Now, flipping it over to the other side, West Virginia's offense and Oklahoma State's defense. Some numbers here for you. You're going to like this one, Gene. Get yourself all ready for this. Oklahoma State's defense against the pass out of a 16-team Big 12 league, they are, drumroll please, 15th in the league, 276.4 yards per game. Gene, we have talked ad nauseum how bad this West Virginia secondary or maybe just defense is against the pass has been. Oklahoma State is allowing 20 more yards through the air than West Virginia's defense. Just saying.
I love it.
Thinking that that's been bad for West Virginia, Oklahoma State fans have had it just a teeny bit worse. And to make it even worse, this will help out our guy Jaheim potentially to get going. Oklahoma State is dead last in the Big 12 against the run, allowing a whopping 204.2 yards per game. They are not good against the pass. They are not good against the run. And if I'm Neil Brown, if I'm Garrett Green, Jaheim White, I'm licking my chops when I see this on tape. Now, they're not going to play like this all season long. Brian Nardo's a really good defensive coordinator. They're going to figure things out. You just hope it's not this week. And if you're West Virginia, I think there's several ways you can attack this. You can either get Garrett Green going early in the passing game, give him some easy completions to kind of get him in a rhythm. So maybe that he does have a 65% completion percentage game. And if he does have that, then Oklahoma State's really in a world of trouble, because then you're going to be able to do everything you want. Or you just lean on him early, start to establish the rushing game, and then try and figure out the passing game as it goes along, take some shots downfield. What do you feel like is the best formula for the Mountaineers to attack this struggling Oklahoma State defense?
You're going to laugh at this. I'm going to say a combination of both. Two things can be true at the same time, my guy.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about coming out and getting Garrett started early with easy completions. I'm talking about a few screens, a few, easy completions just to get him in rhythm. But at the same time, within that first series, I'm throwing both at him. We're going to get him some easy completions and we're going to run the football. Easy completions and run the football. Run the football, easy completions. We're doing that we're scheming that in the first 12 to 15 plays, which should give you probably the first two series. If I'm Coach Brown, if he's listening, I'm scheming my first 20 to 25 plays with that rhythm, because at that point, if it's successful, Oklahoma State don't know what hit them.
Yeah.
They're not sure what you're going to do because it's a balancing act. So in that first two series, in 20 to 25 plays that I scripted, if it's balanced where it's, let's say if it's 11 passes and 12 runs, or 12 passes and 11 runs in the first 25 plays, bruh, you're gonna have Oklahoma State on their heels. And that's really where you want like that. You want them to be unsure of what you're doing, especially because you know what? If you're successful, you keep their crowd out of the daggone game.
Absolutely.
That's what you want. You want to go in the Stillwater and keep their crowd as quiet as possible. So I think we have the ability to do that. I really do.
To me, I think the biggest difference, maybe something that no one's really been talking about too much, is the inability to hang on to the football. And I'm not talking turnovers. Yes, that's a part of it too, because they have turned the ball over a little bit more than they have a year ago. But just staying on the field, completing or converting third downs and just hanging on to the ball. Time of possession was a really big thing for this team a year ago. And a lot of that had to do because they were able to convert on third downs. Last year, they converted 38%, which was fifth in the league. This year, they're at 31.9%, which is 14th in the league. And sometimes 1 + 1 just equals 2, Gene. And that's here with the third down conversions at time of possession. Last year, West Virginia was first in the Big 12 in TOP with 32 minutes and 41 seconds per game. This year, they're 14th in the Big 12 at 28 minutes and 26 seconds. Doesn't sound like a lot, but 3.5-ish minutes or so of not having the football can completely change how the outcome of a game goes. And I know last week or after the Kansas game 2 weeks ago, whatever, a lot of the fans were saying, why doesn't Neil Brown go up tempo more often, more fast paced? Because it really worked with Garrett Green. That seems to be where he excels most. I'm sitting there on the other end saying, shoot, hang on to the ball longer, go slower, please slow it down. Slow it down, convert third downs and hold on to the football. And I think you're going to see a better team down the stretch than we have here in the first 4 games. Hanging on to the football is a major, major part of this thing for me.
No, I agree with you 100%. And you have to. First off, I also think, like you said, when you can convert and hold on to the ball and make the game where you're dictating the pace when you do that, in my opinion, what's the point of going up tempo in your 3 and out?
Or, Gene, I mean, do you want to see that defense on the field quicker? I mean, I want to keep them on the sideline as long as I can.
That's
no
the
offense.
whole point.
And conversely, I want the other team's defense to be out there for as long as possible. And I think some people get kind of lost in the sauce with the snap counts and stuff, and you can say, oh, well, you can rep them to death, and if you go up tempo, you might get 91 snaps against their defense. Sure, but are they strenuous snaps? If you're going up tempo, sometimes it's not necessarily the same as the wear and tear of a 65 or 60 snaps that they may play against a physical run game. That's a completely different thing. You may have more wear and tear with that.
Totally different. And I'm going to share this with you. So I'm not going to mention the team. I just know this. There is a team that's what they do. That is in the framework of how they run their offense. The problem is they're not scoring that many points. Mm-hmm. So your defense is dog tired because your defense is playing freaking 60, 70, 80 snaps a game. maybe closer to 90 snaps a game because of the up tempo and the turnaround of your offense, and you're not scoring that many points. So you're 3 and out, 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 3 and out at such a fast rate that your defense is like, dude,
give me a break.
Right, because you don't get anything on first down, you don't get anything on second down. You might get a completion on third down, but it's short, so now we have to punt.
Yep.
If that's happening, your first 5 to 6 series, think about that. Think about that. So that's what I mean about tempo, tempo teams. It really does depend on what you are doing within the framework of the speed in which you're calling plays, and if you're executing. If you're executing, then fine. But if you're not executing,
you slow that thing down.
Yeah, you got to slow that thing down. Yeah.
You got to bring the old whoa Nelly on out and reel that sucker back in.
Listen, what we doing? Slow it down, get it together, get out so our defense can get a break here, get a breath. No, I agree 100%. You got to slow it down. Point is, you have to execute no matter what phase. If it's up tempo or mid tempo, you have to execute, and you got to get first downs. Bottom line.
Well, it is that time of the show, Gene. It's time for our weekly pick'ems, and my friend, you have officially took the lead. Finally, we have some separation, and as I told him before we hopped on the air, this is where I get a little nervous because it seems like once Gene gets the lead, and even if it's a game, 2 weeks later, I'm 7 games behind, and I have no idea what the hell just happened. So I'm a little concerned right now. I'm not going to lie.
Here's the climb.
Don't trust that climb. Trust this climb over here. Be patient. We're going to get better as the season goes on. I needed the bye week to recoup, and we're going to be okay. So you went 3-2 last week, this was 2 weeks ago. I went 2-3. So you're 12-8. I'm 11-9. Let's go ahead and get to it. A top 25 showdown in the SEC, and I believe the only top 25 showdown in college football. It's a pretty weak slate, as you'll see with some of our pick'ems here. But Missouri at Texas A&M, kicking off on noon, at noon on ABC. Very interesting game. I think both of these teams are probably left out of the conversation more often than not when it comes to the SEC. But they're real players, and I think the winner of this game is going to have a real chance to kind of cement themselves as a true contender in the SEC with a win here. I like Texas A&M. It's a tough place to play, but I think Missouri's the better team here, and I think Brady Cook's due for a really big game. So I'm going to go with Mizzou, Missouri.
See, that's a smart pick. Now you're getting there. That's a smart pick because that's who I pick. I agree. Missouri. Absolutely.
Let's go to the little Mountaineers and those who maybe wish they grew up as Mountaineers. That is the App State Mountaineers taking on the Marshall Thundering Herd, 3:30 on ESPN+. First and foremost, thoughts and prayers to everybody in the Boone area of North Carolina. All of Western North Carolina got decimated with Hurricane Helene wiping through. It's just a tragic scene there. I know my in-laws, they live in that area. It's a travesty. If you can do anything you can to help out, please do so. There's a lot of different organizations that can do that. They certainly need your help. I know my in-laws are still without power. They said it could be several weeks before they get that taken care of. So if you can help out, help out. But back to the football, which is a hard transition. But App State, I'm going to go with the Mountaineers here. Maybe it's a little bit of pulling for them and pulling for the folks that I know back in that area, but they need to win badly. They're 2-2. They didn't play last week. They were scheduled to play Liberty at home, but of course, because of the hurricane that whipped through, they were not able to play that game. So I think this is one where they win the game for the folks in Boone, for those in Western Carolina. I'm rooting for those Mountaineers hard.
Wow. And again, sending prayers and heartfelt, sincere hope and all these good things and good vibes to the people in Boone and that part of North Carolina. Unfortunately, the Thundering Herd for me. Yeah.
Oh, he's good.
Yes. Here's where we start to separate.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, I think Marshall. That's a good football team. I think they'll find their stride. So for me, the Thunder been hurt in this particular game, but prayers to App State and everybody in that particular region.
Absolutely. Tough one for a certain team in this game, and that is Florida State. This is usually a really good game, Florida State and Clemson. This year, not so much. Florida State stumbles into this one 1-4 with a whole lot of issues, including quarterback. 7 o'clock kickoff, ESPN. I'd like to think this is a game. I'd like to think that Florida State can get back on track and find some ways to win games, but I just don't see it. Clemson, they're kind of sneakily getting better each week. No one's really talking about them in the ACC, mainly because of Miami, what they're doing. Pitt, unfortunately, has kind of been the darling of the ACC early on. I'm going to go Clemson, and I don't think it's close. Florida State drops to 1-5, and I feel like next week we're going to be talking about Mike Norvell on the hot seat.
Agreed on all fronts. Didn't just know how to win in these particular games, and they smell blood in the water, man. There's something about teams that are struggling. They play that much better. So, to me, Clemson, Clemson.
Another coach on the hot seat, sticking in the Sunshine State. Billy Napier at Florida. The Gators are hosting UCF, who I tried to tell some people last week that Colorado was much better than a 14-point underdog to UCF. And I'm probably annoying the hell out of the people that watch this show and between the ears and read my articles because, Gene, I've said this a million times. I don't understand the hype with UCF. I don't. They are not that great. They're not a deep football team. And you mean to tell me that just because they added KJ Jefferson, who was at Arkansas, they're all of a sudden a Big 12 contender and they're 14-point favorites over Colorado? Get out of here. No. Now, after they just got humbled at home against Colorado, they go to the Swamp. This is a tough bounce-back game for them, even with Billy Napier going through all the struggles with the outside noise. I'm going with the Gator Chomp here, baby. I'm going Florida. I think they have more depth, even though it's not great depth. Florida wins this game.
Absolutely. Listen, man, when you go into the Swamp, they're hurting. They're hurting. There's nothing worse than poking an animal in their home when they're hurting already. No, Gator Chomp, big time chomp.
And it is the game that we're all here for. West Virginia and Oklahoma State. The Mountaineers had a chance to recoup after the bye week and get back on track. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State's coming off 2 tough physical losses to Utah and Kansas State. They haven't lost 3 straight since 2014. The last time they started 0-2 in Big 12 play was 2005. This is something they don't do a whole lot of. West Virginia and Oklahoma State. It's a tussle this Saturday.
Going to Stillwater, tough place to play, one of the toughest venues in the league. It's our first flight of the year. A lot of respect for what Coach Gundy's done there. Been extremely consistent over a long period of time and a lot of success. Looking forward to getting back to it. All these Big 12 games, you watch them over the last weekend, and as we get into this conference, there's so much even play, and it's going to come down to the fourth quarter. I think turnovers, who can score touchdowns in the red zone, is kind of determining who wins these games that are coming down to the wire.
All right, it is West Virginia, Oklahoma State, 4 o'clock on ESPN2. Gene, I've said for a while that Oklahoma State's going to win this game. I don't think that being on the road or home really matters in this series. West Virginia has just really struggled against Oklahoma State. However, I've had a week to think about it. Oklahoma State has had their issues as we've just ran through the numbers defensively. There's a first for everything, right? Do they drop 3 straight to open Big 12 play? Unfortunately, I'm not going to go with the Mountaineers. I do think Oklahoma State figures some things out. Ollie Gordon will get back on track. I've learned my lesson to not write off Mike Gundy. I've done it so many times in years past. I'm not going to do it again. Gene, I wouldn't be shocked if not only they win this game, but they win out the rest of their schedule and they're in the dang Big 12 championship at 10-2. I'm going to Oklahoma State. Again, not the end of the season for the Mountaineers. I still think they're going to bounce back. They're going to have some successes on here at the upcoming games, but I'm going to Oklahoma State here.
I like Mike Gundy. I told you before, we played against Mike. He was a starting quarterback when we played them way back when in the Sun Bowl.
He beat out Alan Bowman.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. But listen, with all that being said, and with me knowing both sides of it, knowing the stats, offense, defense, all that good stuff, I cannot, in good faith, find myself going against my Mountaineers, and I'm going to put my hat on the table, and I'm going with my Mountaineers, and I think they're going to go into Stillwater, Oklahoma, and get themselves a much-needed and well-deserved win. And again, this is where we separate.
Maybe it might be, and if that's the case, I'm all for it. That puts us all in a better mood here, and I'm sure the fans that come in and tune into the show would much rather listen to us talk about a successful West Virginia team, the one that struggled. Now, I will say, Gene's record. I think that's safe to say that Gene's record is exactly identical to Neil Brown's when picking West Virginia, because he does go with West Virginia every single week. But hey, someone's got to be the homer. We've got to have the love affair for the Mountaineers on here. I'm going to be the realist, or maybe not the realist, the one that's more harsh, the more harsh guy on this panel. So
yeah. Clean that up.
I'll take it back. But no, we'll see if we have any more separation. That's going to do it for us this week here on the Walkthrough Game Day Show. Thank you as always for tuning in. Drop your picks in the comment section below for the weekly pickups. If you get all 5 right, you get that dude's autograph, and we'll see who comes up. We do have one winner this year. Let's make it a second one here as we get into another week of college football. So for Eugene Napoleon, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you guys for tuning into another show. Hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI, and follow us on X at SI_WVU. We'll see you guys Saturday night for the postgame show.